Okay, so let's talk vintage textures. A good texture can definitely take your design to the next level. You can get that sort of thrift store, the shirt has been washed a million times type look. So let me show you how I use textures. And honestly, I think this is the most like versatile, easiest way to use textures inside Photoshop. So we're going to use this Guns N' Roses market design as an example. This one actually got left on the cutting room floor, but it's going to be perfect for this example because this is definitely something that could use some vintage texture to make it look maybe like it was genuinely from the 80s, right? Okay, so here's what you'll want to do. You most likely have multiple layers over here, like different elements for your design, right? There's going to be some text, maybe some photos, whatever the case may be. What you'll want to do is highlight all of them. So just click the very top layer and then hold down the shift key and go to your bottom layer and click that as well. And that's going to highlight everything, and then we'll hit Command G or Control G if you're on a PC, and that's going to group everything together into one folder. Now go down to the bottom of your layers window and see this add layer mask option. Just click that. And so now we've got a layer mask. Now we're going to go inside the layer mask, and to do that, hold down the Alt Option key and click this white thumbnail right here. And now we're inside the layer mask. This is where we're going to be adding our texture. So to do that, just navigate to your vintage textures pack. There's also the throwback textures pack. We're going to use the vintage textures pack for this example. So we're going to open up that folder. All of these options are going to give you a really nice vintage look. Let's use the vintage plastisol for this example. So we'll just go ahead, double click that to open it up in Photoshop. And then we're going to hit Command A, which is going to select the entire canvas, and then Command C, and that's going to copy the texture. And again, anytime I say Command, it's going to be Control on PC, right? So now that we have this copied, we can go back into our design, and we're inside the layer mask already, so we can just hit Command V, and that's going to paste in that texture, right? So now, when we hold down the Option key and we click this thumbnail again, which is how we got into the layer mask, it's going to take us out of the layer mask. So go ahead and hold down the Alt Option key, click this thumbnail, and boom, we're outside of the layer mask. Our texture has been applied, and what's really cool is that if we remove the background, you can see that it actually knocks out all of that color, right? So this is something that you could get DTG printed. It's still going to have the textures intact, and it's better than some other alternative methods for adding texture. This is definitely, in my opinion, the most like proper professional way to use textures. And as you saw, it's very simple. Now another thing that's cool about doing it this way is if you hit Command A, that's going to highlight the entire canvas. And because we've got this layer mask highlighted, if you just move the texture around with your mouse, you can place it differently. If you don't necessarily like how this looks, you can just move it up, you can move it down. All of the textures in these kits are sized at 15 inches wide by 25 inches in height, which again is what I recommend for t-shirt designs. So they're basically going to encompass the entire canvas right when you paste it in. And, obviously that was very intentional. That being said, I would definitely recommend moving the textures up and down, if anything, because once you move them to the left or right, you start running into issues here because it's going off the canvas, right? At any point, if you wanted to use another texture, all you have to do is the same process. So let's try Vintage Rough Wall, Command A, Command C, back to our design, hold down Alt Option, enter the layer mask, Command V to paste in the texture, hold down Alt Option, click the thumbnail, and boom, brand new texture, whole different vibe. So yeah, again, these vintage textures are very easy to work with, and they're definitely a tool that you can use to take your graphics to the next level.